In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where stars are born and civilizations flourish and fade away, there was a planet known as Zoralis. It was home to the Zorali, a proud race of warriors and traders, whose barons ruled with iron fists and cunning minds. Among these barons, Gorax was the most feared, a giant of a man with a booming voice and a presence that could silence a room. Gorax's daughter, Lyra, was unlike any other Zorali. Born paralyzed from the waist down, she spent her days confined to a floating chair, her eyes a mirror to a world she could never touch. Many whispered that her condition was a cosmic joke, a cruel twist of fate for a warrior race, and even Gorax himself could not hide his disappointment. The story begins at a grand hall on Zoralis, where leaders from across the galaxy gathered for a summit. Humans were new to this interstellar community, their presence still a novelty and a source of curiosity. Among them was David Reynolds, a young diplomat with an unassuming demeanor and a keen mind. As the summit drew to a close, Gorax announced a final, shocking gesture. With a sly grin, he presented his daughter to David. "Take her," he bellowed, his voice echoing off the metallic walls. "Let us see what a human can do with a broken Zorali." The hall erupted in laughter, the sound harsh and mocking. But David didn't laugh. As he approached Lyra, he saw something no one else bothered to notice: the fierce intelligence in her eyes, the slight, defiant lift of her chin. He accepted the gift, not out of diplomacy, but out of a sudden, deep respect for Lyra. Back on Earth, David introduced Lyra to a world vastly different from Zoralis. Despite her father's intentions, Earth was not a place of limitations but of possibilities. David enlisted the help of the best medical experts and engineers, and together they worked on enhancing Lyra's mobility with advanced technology. As weeks turned into months, Lyra's world expanded. The floating chair was replaced with a state-of-the-art exoskeleton that allowed her to stand and walk for the first time. But the real change was in her eyes, brighter now with the promise of independence. Their daily sessions were not just about physical rehabilitation but became lessons in human and Zorali culture. Lyra taught David the complex etiquette of Zorali politics, while David shared human philosophies and arts. Through these exchanges, a mutual admiration and understanding blossomed. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the balcony of David's apartment, Lyra spoke of her dreams, of seeing Earth's oceans and mountains, landscapes she had only glimpsed through holoscreens before. David promised her that one day, they would see them together. Meanwhile, back on Zoralis, news of Lyra's progress reached Gorax. The Baron was taken aback, not just by her physical improvements, but by the strategic partnerships David was forming in Lyra's name. Underestimating the human and his paralyzed daughter had been a grave mistake. The chapter closes with Lyra, standing beside David, looking out over the city skyline, her face alight with a mix of wonder and resolve. "You saw me," she said softly, her voice steady. "Not as a joke, but as a person." David smiled, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Everyone deserves that chance, Lyra." Together, they stood, a testament to the potential found in the most unexpected places, ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy might throw at them next. The Earth's horizon stretched wide before them, tinted orange and pink by the setting sun. As they stood in silence, Lyra's thoughts drifted back to Zoralis, contrasting sharply with the peaceful scene. "Do you think he ever regrets it?" she asked quietly, referring to her father. David turned to her, his face thoughtful. "Your father? Regrets can be complex for people like him. But I believe he's certainly surprised by how things turned out." Lyra chuckled, a sound tinged with irony. "Surprised, that's one way to put it." Their conversations often danced around Gorax, but tonight, Lyra seemed more contemplative. "David, back on Zoralis, power and alliances are everything. What my father did, sending me here, it was meant to dismiss me, but also to bind you to him, in a way he thought harmless." David nodded, understanding the intricacies of interstellar politics more since meeting Lyra. He didn't expect his plan to backfire. "Not just with your progress, but with the alliances we've been forming here." Lyra's eyes sparkled with a mix of newfound confidence and strategic thinking. "Exactly. And we can use that. If we can show Zoralis that what's considered broken can be made powerful again. Perhaps we can influence more than just our own fates. Encouraged by her vision, David shared his recent discussions with Earth's leaders. There's support here for a more formal alliance with Zoralis, not just trading goods, but ideas, technology, culture. They see the value you represent. Lyra's mind raced with possibilities. And if Zoralis sees Earth not just as a backwater outpost but as a source of valuable alliances, it could change the galactic playing field. Their plans grew more concrete with each discussion, moving beyond personal rehabilitation to global diplomacy. David helped Lyra navigate the complex emotional and intellectual transition from being seen as a liability to becoming a leader. As they worked, Lyra's story began to resonate across Earth through broadcasts and interviews. People were captivated not only by her technological transformation but by her perspective as a bridge between human and Zorali cultures. Her insights into Zorali customs and philosophy offered Earth a deeper understanding of their galactic neighbors. In the weeks that followed, an official delegation from Zoralis arrived on Earth, a response to the undercurrents of change initiated by Lyra's and David's efforts. The delegation was led by none other than Gorax himself, his towering figure now standing in a high-tech Earth conference room, a stark contrast to the organic grandeur of Zoralis. Gorax's gaze upon seeing his daughter, standing tall and confident beside Earth's leaders, was inscrutable. The initial meetings were tense, with high-stakes discussions on trade, technology exchange, and cultural education programs. Lyra, once thought of as a mere pawn in her father's game, now negotiated terms with a calm authority that even Gorax couldn't dismiss. She addressed the assembly, her voice clear and strong. This partnership isn't just about what Earth can learn from Zoralis, or vice versa. It's about how we, together, can redefine what it means to be strong, to be capable. The discussions stretched into days, with Lyra at the forefront, her every word and decision shaping the future of both worlds. Gorax, observing his daughter's transformation and the respect she commanded, felt a complex mix of pride and re-evaluation of his own principles. As the agreements were finally signed, Lyra and David stood side by side, a partnership that had started as a cynical joke evolving into a pivotal alliance. Their journey was far from over, but as they looked out at the assembled leaders, it was clear they were steering the course of history, not just for Earth or Zoralis, but for the galaxy. The freshly signed treaties lay on the polished table, their ink barely dry but their implications vast and deep, like the roots of an ancient tree. Lyra, standing beside the window, watched as the Zorali delegation's spacecraft lifted off, its engines a soft glow against the twilight. Her thoughts were on the future, on the new paths being forged. David joined her, his gaze following the ship's ascent. "It's a start," he said. "A good one." Lyra nodded, the reflection of the departing ship flickering in her eyes. "A start, yes. But the real work begins now. We have to ensure these agreements become more than just words on paper." Her determination was palpable, igniting a similar resolve in David. They returned to their strategy room, a high-tech hub filled with screens displaying data streams, world news, and galactic communications. Their team, a diverse group from various Earth nations and a few Zorali advisors, was already assembling, ready to tackle the myriad tasks ahead. The first challenge was technological integration. Zorali technology was advanced, but not always compatible with human systems. Lyra took the lead, her understanding of her people's tech proving invaluable as she guided the engineers through the complex harmonization process. Her ability to bridge two worlds was more than diplomatic. It was technical, cultural, deeply personal. Meanwhile, David focused on the cultural exchanges. He organized symposiums and exchanges, bringing Zorali artists, thinkers, and leaders to Earth to share their knowledge and experiences. Each event was a tapestry of colors, sounds, and ideas, weaving a richer understanding between the two species. However, not all were pleased with these developments. There were factions on both Zoralis and Earth who viewed the growing partnership with suspicion and fear. Propaganda campaigns and protests began to surface, threatening to undermine the fragile progress. Aware of the brewing dissent, Lyra and David strategized to counteract the misinformation. They launched a series of public forums and transparent discussions, directly addressing the concerns and fears of their critics. Lyra, once the subject of mockery, now stood as a symbol of unity and strength, her words resonating deeply both on Earth and across the stars. As tensions rose, an incident on a joint Earth-Zarali space station tested the resolve of both communities. A malfunction in the life support system, a system built from both Earth and Zarali technologies, required immediate cooperation to resolve. The crisis, though fraught with danger, ultimately served to demonstrate the effectiveness of their collaboration. Lyra was there, directing the repair efforts alongside the station's commander, her calm demeanor steadying the panicked crew. The successful resolution of the crisis became a turning point, a clear example of what could be achieved together. It was broadcasted widely, her image and story becoming a beacon for the potential of unity. In the aftermath, support for the Earth-Zarali partnership solidified. More nations and planets expressed interest in joining the alliance, intrigued by the benefits and bolstered by the visible successes. Back on Earth, as Lyra and David reviewed the latest reports of increased support and interest, they knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. But the foundation they had built was strong, the benefits mutual, and the potential boundless. In their strategy room, plans for future initiatives lined the walls, a galaxy of opportunities waiting to be explored. Each decision, each action taken was a step toward a future where the Alliance was not just a bridge between two worlds, but a new vision for the galaxy. The air was charged with a subtle, electric tension as Lyra and David entered the assembly hall on Zoralis. The hall, an architectural marvel of soaring ceilings and holographic displays, was packed with representatives from multiple galactic factions, their expressions ranging from curious to cautious. This summit was pivotal, a testament to how far Earth and Zarali relations had come and a beacon for potential allies. At the heart of the discussions was the formation of an interstellar council, an ambitious project aimed at fostering peace and cooperation across galaxies. Lyra, as a representative of both Zarali prowess and Earth's innovative spirit, was to present the framework of the council, which included shared technology platforms, coordinated defense strategies, and cultural exchange programs. As Lyra took the podium, her voice steady and clear, a murmur ran through the crowd. She outlined the vision of the council, her words painting a picture of a united galactic community, stronger together in the face of the universe's myriad challenges. Together, we can create a network of support and prosperity, a coalition not just for our survival but for our flourishing, she declared. However, not all were swayed by her vision. A faction led by Senator Kal, a Zarali hardliner known for his nationalistic views, challenged her proposals. While the idea of a galactic council is noble, Kal spoke, his voice carrying a sharp edge, we must consider the sovereignty of our individual planets. How do we ensure that this council does not supersede our own laws and customs? The question sparked a heated debate among the assembly, with various leaders echoing Kal's concerns. Lyra responded with a calm yet firm rebuttal, emphasizing the council's role as an advisory and coordinating body, not a governing one. It is designed to enhance, not override, our individual sovereignties, she explained. David watched from the sidelines, his analytical mind cataloging the reactions of the assembly members. The support was there, but so was significant resistance. It was clear that the path to establishing the council would require more than speeches and promises. It needed tangible proofs and pilot projects. The debate stretched into hours, with Lyra and her team navigating complex political waters. They proposed initial joint missions, including a humanitarian effort on a war-torn planet and a collaborative scientific endeavor to study a newly discovered wormhole. These projects would serve as the proving grounds for the Council's efficacy and intentions. Amid the strategizing, an unexpected crisis unfolded. A distress signal from a nearby mining colony, caught in a gravitational anomaly, reached the summit. It was a situation that required immediate attention and a chance to demonstrate the proposed Council's utility. With the eyes of the galaxy on them, Lyra coordinated a multi-species rescue operation. Ships from Earth, Zoralis, and 2 other alien races responded, their efforts synergized through the protocols Lyra had outlined in her council proposal. The successful rescue not only saved lives but also served as a powerful example of what unified action could achieve. In the aftermath of the rescue, sentiment in the assembly shifted. The tangible results of cooperation swayed many previously undecided representatives. The final vote was closer than Lyra had hoped, but in the end, the motion to establish the council passed by a narrow margin. As the assembly disbanded, Lyra and David shared a moment of quiet satisfaction. The establishment of the council was a major victory, but they were acutely aware that each success brought new challenges. The real test of the council's effectiveness would be in its day-to-day operations and its ability to handle the complexities of a diverse galactic community. In their shared quarters, reviewing the day's events and planning their next steps, Lyra felt a profound sense of commitment to her dual heritage and to the potential of their new galactic endeavor. "We have set something incredible in motion," she said to David, who nodded in agreement, both aware that the road ahead was long, but for now, they had steered their shared dream into reality. The newly established Interstellar Council was more than a political entity. It was a mosaic of diverse civilizations, each thread of its fabric representing a unique culture and technology. The Council's headquarters, a sprawling complex orbiting a neutral star, buzzed with activity as representatives and delegates from countless systems gathered to shape their collective future. Lyra, now officially appointed as one of the Council's key coordinators, faced the monumental task of melding these diverse interests into a coherent policy. Her office, a room with walls of transparent aluminum, offered a panoramic view of the bustling station. Here, she spent her days in back-to-back meetings, her diplomatic acumen tested at every turn. In one of the Council's first sessions, a critical issue was tabled: the sharing of technology. A smaller, technologically lagging species, the Krenu, had requested access to advanced healthcare technologies, which some of the more advanced civilizations were hesitant to share freely, fearing misuse or technological theft. Lyra proposed a novel solution, a technology-sharing framework that included training and joint ventures, ensuring that the technology transfer was not only equitable but also secure. "By investing in their growth, we invest in our shared security and prosperity," she argued, her proposal highlighting her vision of interdependence. Meanwhile, David worked behind the scenes, his role as an advisor growing to involve more than just support for Lyra. He liaised with Earth's governments and the Zerali authorities, ensuring that Lyra's initiatives had the backing they needed. His efforts were crucial in navigating the bureaucratic and logistical hurdles that accompanied interstellar diplomacy. The challenges were not just political. Cultural misunderstandings often threatened to derail negotiations. During a key session, a misunderstanding arose between the aquatic Illyrians and the desert-dwelling Sandar about water usage on a joint colony. The Illyrians, viewing water as a sacred resource, clashed with the Sandar, who saw it as merely another commodity. Lyra facilitated a series of cultural exchange workshops where delegates shared their histories and values. These workshops were initially met with skepticism but soon proved their worth. Seeing their worldviews expressed and respected, the Illyrians and Sandar found common ground, agreeing to a dual resource management system that respected both their needs. As the Council navigated these complex negotiations, an unexpected threat emerged from the fringe of the galaxy. A rogue black hole, its trajectory altered by a cosmic event, was heading towards a populated sector. The Council had to act swiftly. Lyra marshaled a coalition of member species, each contributing their unique technologies to create a diversionary pulse aimed at altering the black hole's path. The operation was risky. The slightest miscalculation could have catastrophic consequences. The day of the operation, the tension in the control room was palpable. Lyra stood at the command module, overseeing the multi-species team as they initiated the pulse. The minutes stretched into hours as they waited for the results. Finally, the data confirmed that the black hole's course had been successfully diverted. Cheers erupted across the control room and across countless worlds as news of the Council's success spread. This victory was more than just a saved sector. It was proof of the Council's efficacy and unity. In the celebration that followed, Lyra and David shared a quiet moment on the observation deck of the Council station. They looked out at the stars, a vast canvas of potential. "Every day we weave this tapestry tighter, stronger," Lyra mused, her voice a blend of exhaustion and exhilaration. David nodded, his admiration for Lyra's resilience and vision clear in his eyes. And every day, it holds together against the forces trying to pull it apart. Their conversation was interrupted by a call from the council chamber. Another issue had arisen, needing their attention. With a shared glance of determination, they headed back to the fray, ready to tackle whatever challenge came next in their mission to weave a galaxy-wide community. The council chamber buzzed with a subtle undercurrent of tension that had nothing to do with the usual political negotiations. A series of cyberattacks had disrupted trade routes between several key member planets, casting a shadow of suspicion and paranoia across the council. These attacks were sophisticated, pointing to an insider with deep knowledge of the council's operations. Lyra, now deep in the mesh of her leadership role, coordinated the investigative teams with a steady hand. Her office had transformed into a command center for the crisis, screens alive with data streams and security feeds. The attacks were not just a disruption of commerce but a direct challenge to the stability of the council she had worked so hard to establish. David, ever the strategist, suggested a discreet approach to the investigation. We need to handle this internally as much as possible. External agencies might see this as a weakness to exploit, he advised. Working closely with Lyra, they assembled a small, trusted team of cybersecurity experts from various member species, each vetted for their loyalty and expertise. As the investigation progressed, the traces led to an unlikely source, the Yorith, a reclusive species known for their neutrality. The revelation was a shock to the council, and to Lyra personally, who had always viewed the Yorith as allies. The evidence suggested that the cyberattacks were being facilitated through Yorith-controlled nodes. Confronting the Yorith delegation required a delicate balance of diplomacy and firmness. Lyra arranged a private meeting with their ambassador, presenting the evidence with David at her side. The ambassador, a tall, slender figure with opaque eyes, received the news with an unsettling calm. The individuals responsible do not represent our government's intentions, the ambassador assured her, his voice smooth and controlled. We will investigate this matter thoroughly and cooperate fully. Despite the ambassador's assurances, the council remained on edge. Lyra proposed an interim measure, a joint task force to oversee all critical trade routes, incorporating military and technical resources from across the council. This move was met with mixed reactions, but the necessity of safeguarding their collective interests ultimately won the majority's approval. Meanwhile, Lyra's visibility and leadership during the crisis bolstered her standing within the council, but also painted a target on her back. Rumors and conspiracy theories circulated, some accusing her of orchestrating the crisis to consolidate power, others suggesting she was a puppet of Earth, maneuvering for its interests. To counteract the growing distrust, Lyra organized a series of open forums, broadcasting to all member planets. She addressed the accusations directly, her candor and commitment to transparency reinforcing her image as a leader dedicated to the council's ideals. These challenges are tests of our resolve and unity, she stated, her image broadcasted on myriad screens across countless worlds. We must face them together as a council, not as isolated voices. As the council navigated through the turmoil, David remained a constant source of support for Lyra. Together, they spent long hours planning, strategizing, and sometimes simply reflecting on the immense responsibilities they bore. One evening, as they reviewed security enhancements for the council's network, David paused, looking over at Lyra with concern. "You're carrying a heavy load," he said softly. "Make sure you're not doing it alone." Lyra smiled, a tired but genuine expression. "I'm not alone. I have you, and I have the council. As long as we stand together, we can weather any storm." Their partnership, strengthened in the crucible of crisis, was more than a professional alliance. It was a deep bond forged in the shared commitment to a vision far greater than themselves. Together, they returned to the fray, ready to untangle the web of intrigue that threatened to unravel the fabric they had worked so tirelessly to weave. In the dim light of early dawn, the council headquarters seemed to breathe a quiet tension, its corridors echoing with the soft footsteps of those who worked tirelessly behind the scenes. The recent upheavals had taken their toll, and the atmosphere was charged with a mix of determination and caution. Lyra, walking through these halls, felt the weight of every glance, the unspoken questions hanging in the air. The investigation into the cyber attacks had deepened, revealing layers of corruption that extended beyond the initial leads. It was not just about the Yorith. There were others, shadow figures moving in the background, manipulating events to their advantage. The complexity of the web was daunting, but Lyra was undeterred. Her resolve hardened with every discovery, her path forward fueled by a fierce need to protect the Council's integrity. Meanwhile, David orchestrated a series of covert operations to trace the financial and logistical networks that supported the attackers. His team, a blend of the best minds from various member species, worked around the clock, their efforts cloaked in secrecy to prevent tipping off their targets. Their breakthrough came unexpectedly. An anonymous tip led them to a hidden data cache on a remote server, its contents a treasure trove of communications, transactions, and encrypted files. Decrypting the data revealed a conspiracy that was more extensive and dangerous than anyone had anticipated. The conspirators were not merely fringe elements or rogue operatives. They included influential members from several planetary governments, including some within the Council itself. These revelations caused a stir of alarm and anger throughout the Council chambers, but also a strategic opportunity. Lyra seized this moment to consolidate support. She called for an emergency session of the Council, where she laid out the evidence with meticulous detail. Her presentation was not just a revelation, it was a call to action. "We stand at a crossroads," she declared, her voice echoing in the hushed chamber. "We can succumb to division and deceit, or we can rise above it, fortified by our commitment to our common goals." The response was a mix of outrage and support. Many delegates rallied to her call, their voices loud in the chamber, advocating for a purge of the corrupt elements and a strengthening of the Council's oversight mechanisms. However, Lyra was aware that the support was fragile, the alliance temporary. The accused parties pushed back, their defenses a tangled mess of legal arguments and political posturing. The sessions grew heated, the debates intense and exhaustive. David, watching from the sidelines, noted the shifting dynamics. His analysis was invaluable, helping Lyra navigate the treacherous waters of Council politics. His late-night briefings with Lyra became their strategy sessions, where they planned their next moves, anticipated their opponents' tactics, and reinforced their defenses. Amid this political storm, Lyra found solace in the smaller, quieter moments. One evening, as she walked through the Council's garden, a serene space designed to mimic the natural environments of various member planets, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. The plants around her, from dozens of worlds, thrived together in harmony, a living metaphor for what she hoped the Council could achieve. As the crisis deepened, Lyra and David strengthened their network of allies, reaching out to those they trusted, fortifying their positions. They initiated new security protocols and transparency measures, their implementation a clear statement of their commitment to reform and unity. The shadows of intrigue continued to loom large, but so did the light of determination and hope. Lyra, standing firm in the midst of this turmoil, was not just fighting for the Council's survival, she was fighting for its soul, convinced that from these trials, a stronger, more unified Council could emerge, ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy might throw its way. The Council chambers, once a symbol of unity and progress, now echoed with the murmurs of dissent and the clatter of urgent voices. The emergency session had extended into the night, the gravity of the situation drawing lines of fatigue on every face, including Lyra's. Yet, her determination did not waver as she navigated the sea of politics with a deft hand, each move carefully calculated to maintain the fragile coalition she had built. As the debates progressed, the strains of alliance became apparent. Lyra's proposal to institute more rigorous oversight and auditing processes met resistance from several influential members who viewed such measures as an infringement on their autonomy. To counteract their opposition, Lyra worked behind the scenes, meeting with delegates individually, using a blend of diplomacy and persuasion to secure their support. David, meanwhile, took a more direct approach with the military and security arms of the Council. He coordinated with them to bolster defenses against potential cyber threats, his actions underscored by the urgency of recent events. His efforts were focused not only on protecting the Council's digital infrastructure but also on setting up counterintelligence units to root out any further threats from within. The plot uncovered in the data cache had revealed plans for a coordinated strike against key Council assets, a move designed to cripple the Council's operations and sow chaos. With this knowledge, Lyra and David acted swiftly. They implemented a series of contingency plans, including decoy operations to mislead the conspirators and buy time for their own strategic maneuvers. In the midst of this crisis, an unexpected ally emerged from the shadows. The Yorith ambassador, previously a figure of neutrality, approached Lyra with an offer of support. His people had also been victims of the conspiracy, manipulated by the same forces that now threatened the Council. This new alliance brought fresh resources and intelligence to Lyra's efforts, significantly bolstering her position. The turning point came when a key conspirator, caught in an unguarded moment, made a critical mistake. Surveillance teams, operating under David's guidance, captured a covert communication that revealed the location of a secret meeting. Acting on this information, Council forces launched a raid that resulted in several high-profile arrests. The aftermath of the raid sent shockwaves through the Council and its adversaries alike. The evidence gathered during the operation provided undeniable proof of the breadth and depth of the conspiracy, implicating several high-ranking officials from multiple worlds. The revelation forced the Council to acknowledge the depth of corruption within its ranks. In response, Lyra convened a special tribunal, presided over by judges from uninvolved and impartial member species, to try the accused. The proceedings were broadcast throughout the galaxy, a show of transparency and justice that Lyra hoped would restore faith in the Council's integrity. As the trials progressed, public sentiment gradually shifted. The populace, initially skeptical and fearful, began to see the Council's efforts as a genuine attempt to cleanse itself of corruption and protect its citizens. Lyra's steadfast leadership during this period garnered respect and admiration from many corners of the galaxy. Meanwhile, David continued to shore up the Council's defenses, his operations expanding to include new security protocols that were adopted by member planets. These measures not only prevented further attacks but also served to unify the member species in a common cause, strengthening the Council's collective resolve. Late one evening, as the twin moons of the Council's host planet cast a soft glow over the headquarters, Lyra and David met in the tranquility of the Council's gardens. They reflected on the recent events, the challenges they had overcome, and the road ahead. "We have weathered this storm," Lyra mused, her gaze contemplative. "But the work to ensure it never happens again is just beginning." Together, they discussed future strategies, focusing on long-term reforms that would prevent corruption and promote transparency. Their conversation was not just about survival, it was about transformation, about building a council that could withstand the pressures of the galaxy and emerge stronger for it. The Council headquarters hummed with a cautious optimism in the wake of the tribunal's verdicts. The conspirators had been dealt with, their plots unraveled and their futures sealed behind bars. Yet, the victory was bittersweet for Lyra, who understood that the root causes of such deep-seated corruption were not so easily excised. The Council needed not just repair but reinvention. In the Council strategy room, screens lit up with streams of data, and the air was thick with the murmur of voices discussing the next phases of reform. Lyra, at the center of this whirlwind of activity, directed her team with a calm assertiveness. Her latest initiative, a comprehensive audit of all Council operations, was a monumental task that required the cooperation of all member planets. David focused on enhancing the Council's security protocols. With the aid of the Yorith ambassador, who had become an invaluable ally, they developed a new encryption technology that was distributed across the network. This not only secured their communications but also served as a symbol of renewed trust and collaboration between the member species. However, the seeds of unrest still simmered beneath the surface. Isolated incidents of sabotage and dissent hinted at lingering factions that were not ready to relinquish their old ways. These elements operated in the shadows, more cautious now but no less dangerous. One evening, a critical infrastructure node on a remote outpost was targeted, causing widespread disruptions. The attack was sophisticated, bypassing many of the new security measures. The council convened an emergency meeting, the room a stark contrast of shadows and faces illuminated by the emergency lighting. Lyra addressed the assembly with a report of the incident, her tone grave but composed. This attack is a clear message that there are still those among us who seek to destabilize our union. We must be vigilant and prepared to act, not just defensively but proactively. The response from the council was a mix of resolve and concern. The attack had exposed vulnerabilities that some believed had been shored up. The debate that followed was intense, with various factions pushing for more aggressive countermeasures, while others advocated for increased surveillance and intelligence gathering. Amidst this debate, Lyra proposed an innovative solution, a decentralized network of response teams, composed of mixed-species units, trained to handle both the technical and physical aspects of such threats. Unity in diversity, she explained, will not only make our response faster and more efficient but also harder for our enemies to predict and counter. Meanwhile, David and the Yorith ambassador worked on tracing the source of the attack. Their investigation led them to a fringe sector where discontent was rife, and support for the old regime still lingered. They planned a covert operation to infiltrate the sector, gather intelligence, and if possible, apprehend the leaders of the dissent. As preparations for the operation were underway, Lyra took a moment to visit the families of those affected by the recent attacks. Her presence was a comforting assurance to the worried families, and her empathy in these meetings was not just a duty but a heartfelt expression of her commitment to the safety and well-being of every citizen under the council's care. Later, back at headquarters, Lyra and David reviewed the final plans for the upcoming operation. The risks were high, but so were the stakes. "We are not just fighting against those who wish us harm," Lyra said, her eyes meeting David's. "We are fighting for the idea of what the council can be, a symbol of hope and strength." With their strategies set and their teams prepared, they were ready to take the fight to their hidden foes, not just to thwart their plans but to demonstrate the resilience and unity of the council. As they moved forward, they knew that each step taken was not just about countering threats but about paving the way for a future where peace was not just an aspiration but a reality. As the twin suns of the sector's central planet began their descent, casting long shadows over the rugged landscape, the covert team led by David and the Yorith ambassador touched down quietly. Their target was a clandestine facility, rumored to be the hub of the dissenting faction's operations. The air was tense with anticipation and the weight of what was at stake. Inside the council's strategy room, Lyra monitored the operation's progress closely. Her team, a diverse group representing various member species, watched the live feeds, their expressions tight with concern. Lyra's leadership had guided them here, to the precipice of a significant breakthrough, and her confidence bolstered their own. The operation was swift and precise. David's team infiltrated the facility under the cover of darkness, disabling security measures and capturing key operatives before they could mount a significant resistance. The intelligence gathered was substantial, revealing not just plans for future attacks but also a network of corruption that extended into sectors previously thought loyal. With the successful operation, the mood among the council members shifted palpably. The decisive action reinforced the belief in their collective security measures and the effectiveness of Lyra's strategies. In the aftermath, those captured were brought before the council for a tribunal that was broadcast across all member worlds, ensuring transparency and justice. In her address to the council following the tribunal, Lyra stood before the assembly, her presence commanding and resolute. "Today, we have struck a blow against those who seek to undermine our unity," she declared. "But this is not the end. It is a beginning, a call to remain vigilant and to continue to strengthen the bonds that hold us together." Her speech resonated, not just in the chamber but across galaxies, inspiring those who had once doubted the council's efficacy. The broadcast served as a potent reminder of the council's commitment to maintaining peace and stability. Following the tribunals, Lyra initiated a series of reforms aimed at rooting out corruption and ensuring that no such network could ever threaten the council again. These included more rigorous vetting processes, enhanced training for all council operatives, and the establishment of an independent oversight body to monitor council activities. Meanwhile, David and the Yorith ambassador continued to dismantle the remaining cells of the dissenting faction. Their efforts were critical in preventing further incidents and restoring confidence in the Council's ability to maintain security and order. As peace was gradually restored, Lyra took a moment to reflect on the path they had traveled. She visited the new memorial site dedicated to those who had suffered or fallen in the recent conflicts. Standing there, she felt the gravity of her responsibilities and the lives impacted by her decisions. The final council session of the year was a momentous occasion. Lyra presented a comprehensive report on the state of the galaxy, highlighting the successes and the ongoing challenges. The session ended with a standing ovation, a symbol of the renewed trust and confidence in her leadership. Back at the council headquarters, Lyra and David stood looking out over the capital city, its lights a testament to the resilience and spirit of its inhabitants. "We have faced much, and there will be more to face in the future," Lyra said, her voice steady and sure. "But together, we are forging a legacy that will endure beyond our lifetimes." David nodded, his admiration for Lyra's vision clear in his eyes. Together, he agreed, the word more a vow than a statement. As the stars shone brightly above, their light seemed to affirm the resilience of the Council and the unbreakable bond between its members. Lyra and David turned from the window, ready to meet the future, whatever it might hold, with unwavering courage and an unyielding commitment to their shared vision of peace.